Excuse me. Excuse me. For those that were unable to see the family before the service, I'd just like to point out that the family will take calls at Shiva, which will begin here at Congregation Shalom, immediately following burial this afternoon, after the burial until 7 p.m. tonight. And then again tomorrow, everyone is invited to join the family here between 5 and 8 p.m. For those of you that like to go to the cemetery, it is Mount Zion Cemetery. We do have directions which we can give to you as you leave today. So at this time, I ask you to please turn off your cell phones so that the services can begin. Thank you.
It's meaningful to see those glasses that are looking out into her community of friends and family who are joined together. For Harriet was a master of what we call in Judaism a value of hakarat hatov, which means to see the good in the world. Harriet saw the good in the world. She saw the good in community. She saw the good in the friendships that she held dear, in her family, whom she loved and was proud of. And it's right that we should gather together to say goodbye and to lend our hearts and our souls to mingle together with her dear family. It's taught that in the words of Ecclesiastes, a season is set for everything, a time for every experience under heaven, a time for dancing and a time for wailing, a time for birthing and a time for dying, a time for speaking and a time for silence, a time for seeking and a time for losing. And the time for mourning is a complicated time filled with many emotions and memories, both bitter and sweet. We begin our service with the 121st Psalm, a psalm that bids us to look up to the mountains. For Harriet was a source of uplift to her family and to her friends, and her goodness will be a permanent marker in their lives, not unlike the lofty peaks of the highest heights. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? Let's read together. My help will come from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your guardian will not slumber. Behold, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. The Eternal is your keeper. Adonai is your shade at your right hand.
Yomam Hashemesh lo yakeka v'yareach b'layla. Adonai yishmorcha mikora, yishmorev nafshecha. Adonai yishmotzetecha.
The sun shall not harm you by day, nor the moon at night. God will guard you from all harm. God will protect your being, now and forever. We're taught that mourning is the price we pay for having the courage to love others. Even in grief, we know that the wonder of human life is too complex and too magnificent to be memorialized in endless pain. And the gifts of spirit our loved ones gave us cannot be measured or weighed, nor can they be lost or even tarnished by time. Even in our darkest hours, we know that some of Harriet's light and her warmth will always be with us, bringing comfort and courage, and in the fullness of time, healing and peace. Death has summoned our beloved Harriet Gordon, and for her love which united us in life and which death cannot sever, and for her companionship which we shared along life's path and which still continues through the tenderness of memory, for the gifts of her heart and mind which brought us joy and happiness and now have become a precious heritage of the Spirit. For all these and more, we are thankful. In this time of mourning, we listen to the voice of our sacred scripture that brings us the ever-new message of God's nearness. It's meaningful to call forward Ted Gertel, dear friend of Michael's, who is going to lead us, is going to chant the 23rd Psalm for all of us. And then following that, we will recite the 23rd Psalm together.
Mizmor leDavid, Adonai roi lo echsor, binos teshe yarbit seini, al mei menuchos yanaleini. Nafshi yeshavev, nafshi yeshavev, yanecheini v'maglei tzedek, Leman שמו, גם כי אלך מגי צלמובס, לא ירא כי אתה עמדי, שבטך ומשענתך, שבטך ומשענתך, המה ינחמוני. טרח לפני שולחן, טרח לפני שולחן, נגד צורריי, דשנת ושמן ראשי, דשנת ושמן ראשי, כוסי רוויה, אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני, ay adadai amamai ay le arech yami.
Thank you for that beautiful and loving tribute through the 23rd Psalm. Let us read together. Eternal One, you are my shepherd, I shall not want. You make me lie down in green pastures. You lead me beside still waters. You restore my soul. You guide me in paths of righteousness for your name's sake. Even when I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. With rod and staff you comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You've anointed my head with oil. My cup is overflowing. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in your house forever. The rabbis of old were keen observers of the world and all that is found within it. And they tell a parable about a contest of sorts to see which would be the tree that would rule all the other trees. And they approached a mighty oak tree. And when they approached the mighty oak tree, they noticed that when the wind was blowing through its trees, it made a tremendous amount of noise. And they said, "Oh, oak tree, why do you make so much noise when the wind passes through your leaves?" And the oak tree said, "This is the only way that I'll be known. It's from the noise that I make." But then the rabbis approached a humble fruit-bearing tree. And when they approached the tree, they noticed that the fruit tree was terribly quiet when the wind was passing through its leaves. And they asked the fruit tree, "Oh, fruit tree, why are you so quiet when the wind passes through your leaves? Don't you wish to be known?" And the fruit tree's answer was, "My fruit will testify to my goodness and to my life." It's meaningful. It's meaningful that Harriet leaves a legacy in this world of children of nieces and nephews who loved her, community that loved her. And it's meaningful now to call forward the fruit of her life that will testify to her goodness. It's a privilege to first call forward her nephew, Michael Fox, who will be followed by her dear daughter, Julie, and then followed by Michael.
Good morning. My name is Michael Fox. I am Harriet's nephew. And I'm here on behalf of my father, Leonard Fox, Harriet's brother, who's here attending virtually as he's currently traveling in northern Africa. And this is his eulogy. My name is Leonard Fox, but to my family, I was always known as Lenny. I was the baby of the family, and when I was born, Harriet was 8 years old. Harriet always took great joy in being an older sister. I remember Harriet assumed the responsibility of looking after Joni and me when Mom was not around. As the baby of the family and the only boy, I was the one always testing the limits of authority, but Harriet was always up to the challenge of taking the role of being my second mom. She kept me on the straight and narrow, which was not always an easy task, but Harriet was always there for me. I was in my early teenage years when Harriet started dating Bob, her future husband, and I officially offered my services as chaperone on their dates. Much to my surprise, they would often take me along. Maybe Harriet wanted a preview of how Bob would be as a parent, but as a young teenager, her reasoning didn't matter to me. I got my night out on the town. Bowling, movies, restaurants. I was even in the car with them the night they got engaged. The three of us drove around all over Milwaukee. Sharing the news and showing off her new, beautiful ring. Bob and Harriet were always wonderful to me and my family, and always did their best to be there for special occasions. On my 50th birthday, I came downstairs in our home in Yorba Linda to complete shock seeing Bob, Harriet, Joni, and our beloved mother, Sylvia, sitting on our family room sofa. Needless to say, I was brought to tears by this surprise and overwhelmed by their love. Family was so incredibly important to Harriet. As the years passed, Bob and Harriet didn't miss attending any of our children's bar bat mitzvahs. They came to USC to see one of the college plays where Sarah was the costume designer. They joined us in Boulder, Colorado for Michael's law school graduation. That's me. And they were always the loving, kind, generous, and thoughtful aunt and uncle that they were. And Harriet often traveled to see us with the kids' favorite homemade lemon bars and pecan bars in tow. I'm so grateful for Harriet being such a loving sister to me and Nancy and an aunt to our 3 kids. It gives me a great sense of peace to know that Bob and Harriet are together again for all of eternity. I like to imagine them beaming down just like the night they got engaged. Rest in peace, big sister. I will always love and miss you, and I'll remember your beautiful blue eyes, your infectious laugh, and your open and loving heart. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. It's very hard to follow my uncle and his humor, so bear with me. Thank you all for being here today to honor our mother. As I look around at all of you, I know how much it would mean to Mom to have people that meant the most to our family be here to support us as we go through this terribly sad time. I do know that if this gathering was for a different circumstance, Mom would want everyone to have a cup of coffee and some delicious homemade snacks, her recipes, of course. When I think of my mom, I think of this woman who only wanted to bring happiness and joy to those she cared about. For our family, that started with Dad. What a marriage they had. It would have been 65 years this past August 2025. To watch them together was beautiful. They genuinely loved being together. Yes, they loved each other, but they loved spending time together too. The everyday activities, travel adventures, theater, and to being the only two people getting their exercise walking the circles in the depths of winter, bundled up in 42 layers of clothing. Their relationship was built on love, friendship, care, respect, laughter, and shared goals. We were so lucky to watch them together. Dad may have been the outgoing one, but Mom was the heart of our family. And as many of you know, Mom had to help Dad make the decisions on life's most critical questions, what to order at the restaurant. He would turn to her and ask her, did he like that particular dish? She always answered, while the rest of us groaned at the repetitive question, that is love. I want to share the Mom I knew with you. She loved her coffee. She shared that passion with me. We had coffee dates in person and on the phone. She loved to exercise, inside or outside, snow, sleet, hail, or a sunny day. She wanted to make her house a home, warm and welcoming. I think she succeeded. She loved to laugh. She and my dad were so funny together. One was always trying to get the other to laugh. For my dad, the more ridiculous humor, the better. She had an amazing smile. Her big blue eyes lit up. Her friends meant the world to her. To see how they celebrated or stood by each other when one was struggling was beautiful. We would be wandering the stores or on vacation, and I would see her stop at the card section or find a little gift item, and she would take it home. I'd ask her, who are they for? And she'd give me one of her friends' names. I would then find a Post-it on the card or item to make sure she gave it to that friend it reminded her of. She was always thinking of people that meant something to her. She loved to get creative in the kitchen. Our home was always filled with homemade dishes and desserts. If you showed up for a visit at our home, count on being fed. That freezer in the basement was key to anyone's sweet tooth. By the way, frozen pumpkin bars are the best. My mom was a more reserved person, but did get her point across on what mattered to her. She was tiny but mighty on causes that were important to her. I learned about some of these later in life and was incredibly proud of her for standing strong in her beliefs. Mom was a teacher. She lived her life with that in mind. She had beautiful handwriting and clearly communicated as she taught her own children and those students she guided. She enjoyed reading books and magazines, playing cards and games, and would say she loved watching movies, but fell asleep about 10 minutes into the show. She always wanted to be a part of table conversations and had an enormous fear of missing out, which led to her falling asleep at the table. We couldn't get her to go to bed because that meant she would miss some tidbit of a conversation. She really was the consummate hostess. Over the years, I learned more and more about who my mom was in her early years. One of the things I always found amusing was that Mom went to summer camp and loved to water ski and swim. Yet she had terrible motion sickness, so being on those skis was better than being in the boat. To Mom, family was everything. That included her treasured cousins, who she stayed in contact with and loved when they got together. While Mom and I had always talked about a variety of subjects, including recipes, books, housewares, and what was happening in my life, there was a change happening. About 15 years ago, Mom began talking to me about her life, childhood, our family, and her hopes and dreams. Something shifted in her because in 2019, she led me into her dining room to sit at the table for the most intense conversation where she shared some of her deepest thoughts. We sat there for hours as she talked about what she wanted me to know. She was the keeper of our family stories, and I wanted to learn all I could. Always keep in mind that each child in a family has their own relationship with each parent. Only the child and parent know what that special bond is. Never believe what someone else tells you about it. I had begun videoing some of our conversations as I wanted to remember the stories directly from her. The last cooking video I took of Mom was preparing for Thanksgiving dinner in 2017. Starting when my mom was a child, her family would celebrate the holidays with her father's side of the family. As we were growing up, we were so very lucky to continue this tradition with the Ratners, still Grandpa's side of the family. On Thanksgiving, we had a big dinner with all the cousins. The menu was specific to account for favorite dishes, but also food allergies. Adding a dish to the dinner required approval from the hostess. This was a serious menu. It was also an amazing meal. Because Mom and I love to cook, we had decided years earlier to do the Gordon Thanksgiving on the Friday night after the holiday. That let us experiment with different recipes, plus we got leftovers. Mom and I spent all day on Wednesday and Friday prepping for the dishes we would be making for both dinners. Mom did the turkey and a number of other dishes, and I did the rest. That last year, I videoed her cleaning the turkey in the sink, providing me with step-by-step directions on what she was doing. A very unglamorous and frankly gross image, truth be told. By 2018, we're getting ready to prep the turkey on that Friday afternoon, and she looked at me with despair and said she didn't know how to do it. I saw the look in her eyes and was heartbroken. Having not made a whole turkey before, I got out my trusty phone and Googled how to prepare a Thanksgiving turkey. Thanks to the Food Network, we had a delicious turkey and even better Gordon family Thanksgiving. It was also our last Thanksgiving dinner as a family. You learn a lot when you watch your parents take care of their parents. Mom was a caregiver from the depths of her soul. I had the privilege of watching my mom care for her parents at all stages of the latter part of their lives, from the day-to-day to their more serious medical needs. Her compassion, wish to allow them to live their lives in the best way they could, to making sure they were well-fed and comfortable. And because food was a central point in our family, here's a sweet story. I remember Mom being upset because all that was in Grandma's freezer was ice cream. Gran was 95 plus years old at the time, but Mom wanted her to have a well-rounded meal. She was really bothered by it. I reminded her that Grandma earned the right to eat whatever she wanted at that point, trying to lighten the mood a little. It worked. More ice cream filled the freezer. Thank you for listening to my memories of my mom. I hope yours are as special and bring you happy thoughts as you think of her. Mom, I think about you every day. I will miss you forever. I will continue to live by and share all the life lessons you taught me. And I will make sure to always feed those I care about or help those who are hungry. May you now be at peace and with Dad. You will never be forgotten.
I don't think it's great to start this with tears in my eyes. I'm going to go off script for 1 second, Rabbi, and I promise it's not bad. I realize that we're all sad today and we're all mourning, but honestly, this has got to be a celebration of life well lived. We can't focus on the sadness because it can be overwhelming. Our father always said that Mom was full of goodness. It's funny that as a kid, she was just Mom, was always there for us. Delicious meals at home, brown bags packed for school lunches, always ready to provide a ride for her kids and their friends. Never missed a recital or a game, rain or shine. Always proud of her kids, no matter the score, or if there were a few missed notes, and I had plenty of those. Traveled out to college and graduate schools for presentations, games, and parents' weekends. Always excited to host our friends for dinner. She reveled in watching us interact and swapping stories. As Julie, Lori, and I got older and entered our own career paths, she was a proud observer and was excited to learn how our day went. Nobody gave more and wanted less. Her chosen profession of teaching is the ultimate embodiment of that. She had a special way with children and was a beloved elementary school teacher throughout her nearly 50-year career in the North Shore. She was known to leave the classroom cleaner than when she got there and the kids well prepared for the next day. As her career was winding down, she refocused her energy on the children that needed more assistance. It was a volunteer at Indian Hill Elementary School. She was especially proud that Lori chose to become an elementary school teacher with hearing-impaired children, highlighted by the times that she joined Lori in the classroom. As Julie mentioned, Mom was an incredible cook and especially baker. We were treated to innumerable home-cooked meals that were both delicious and made with love. Her cakes, cookies, banana breads, zucchini breads, Mom always found a way to get me to eat some vegetables, Muffins and other treats were enjoyed by all. Mom and Julie had a special bond in the kitchen with their shared love of cooking, and this brought great joy to her life. Julie got to learn a lot of the treasured family recipes, while she introduced Mom to kitchen gadgets and cookware and new recipes to try. Anybody who came to the house most certainly left a little heavier and never empty-handed. Mom always made sure treats were put out, and you likely left with a few to take home. In honor of Mom, on your way out of the synagogue today, there are packages of homemade cookies of one of Mom's favorite recipes for everyone. Mom loved family. Mom and Dad were inseparable and lived what true love is. They complemented each other and worked together as a great team. They had their daily walks together in the neighborhood, of course always overdressed, and stopping to visit with any neighbors who might be out that day. She shared a special bond with her brother Lenny and sister Joni and their families. She cherished time with them and their kids. Opportunities to share in birthdays, holidays, or life events were never missed. Her extended family of cousins from across the country were always in her heart, and visits and calls with them routinely brought a smile. Our parents built an extended family in Milwaukee of lifelong friends that shared in many celebrations and comforted through difficult times. They set an example for us to follow, and we are fortunate to have so many of them as part of our lives. Mom never wanted to be the center of attention, rather preferring to be an observer. In fact, she'd probably be pretty upset that so many of you disrupted your schedules to be here today to celebrate her. It's funny that as we searched for pictures of Mom for the photo boards, that we rarely found one just of her. She loved to be with her friends, and previous was a regular player of tennis and bridge, and later in life, mahjong. She had a beautiful smile and wonderful fashion sense. In fact, she had previously given me this tie that I'm wearing today. And let's be very honest, who doesn't think of those glasses when you think of Mom? Mom may have been small in stature, but she was strong in conviction, and quite honestly, just plain strong. If anyone doubts that, ask any of the caregivers about her freakish strength in such a small package. I laughed every time a new caregiver would come in and see Mom thinking that she'd be a pushover, only to receive a right cross to the belly or get pulled down to the floor. Once she got a hold of you, you were there for the long haul, something I think a lot of us are going to miss. She believed strongly in doing what is right and always thought of the other person. Dad was correct. She was full of goodness, but also empathy, kindness, compassion, and more. She wanted everyone to be happy and focused on the good in people. I have never forgotten a story from my childhood that encapsulated this. Mom asked me if I wanted to have a friend over to play. Remember, this is the time of dial telephones, where you actually had to make an effort to connect with someone. I said yes and asked to invite one of my friends that I routinely played with. She suggested I call a different classmate this time. I replied that he didn't have any friends, and her response said it all. She said that's why I should invite him. Mom's last 6 years have had their challenges. After her hip fracture, she struggled with cognitive changes, which was only compounded by the unexpected loss of her true love, our dad. It was clear when she was in the hospital that she was fighting to get back home to be with him. The cruelty of that has never been lost on me, yet the commitment and strength that she showed in recovery were inspirational. She pushed through the pain to walk the same path in the neighborhood that she and Dad used to do together. Mom accepted the changes in the different phases of her life with dignity and grace. She continued to have a smile that would light up the room and a feistiness that kept us on our toes. She battled through numerous coughs and colds and always found a way to bounce back. She fractured her other hip and once again powered through walking the neighborhood. She loved watching musicals and listening to music, and we discovered a mutual love of Neil Diamond. She loved to dance, and when her legs hurt too much, she became the best chair dancing partner a guy could ask for. She enjoyed her cooking shows, and I'm pretty sure that Bobby Flay is now an honorary family member after all the episodes we've watched. She's always loved flowers, and we tried to keep the house in full bloom. She celebrated her 87th birthday 2 days before she passed away, and it was a wonderful day, with the house packed with flowers everywhere one looked. She taught us a lot in these last few years. Before she got hurt, she and I talked about what she wanted, as she knew that her mind was changing. She had lovingly cared for her mom, who lived to 98 and a half, and anticipated some of the same things she saw in her mother happening to her. She asked to stay in the house, as that is where she raised her family and was home. We were able to honor that wish and are grateful for the additional years of smiles, hugs, kisses, dance sessions, and just time we had with Mom. On a personal note, I am so grateful for all of the support to our family over these last few years. I truly believe that the power of community matters, and we let Mom know about all of the people asking about her. I want to thank my physician friends who made house calls, which in many ways honored our grandfather and how he delivered care. All three of us especially want to express our eternal gratitude to the caregivers and nurses who lovingly cared for Mom like she was part of their families. You most definitely became part of ours. Finally, although we are sad that we won't be able to tell our Mom that we love her, give her a kiss, or see that amazing smile, we know that she's in a better place and with our Dad. I'm certain that when he saw her coming, he sang out one of his favorite lines from Fiddler on the Roof. "Goldie, do you love me?"
Thank you to Michael and Julie and Michael for the beautiful memories of your mother and your aunt, your sister. Harriet's life was filled with roses. Bob brought them to her throughout their marriage. Her children carried on the tradition, and her home was always graced with their beauty. And the rose is a fitting symbol, not only because she loved them, but because Jewish tradition also finds meaning in them. The Zohar compares the Torah and the people of Israel to a rose, many petals bound together around a hidden heart. A rose is fragrant and layered and resilient, and it endures. Harriet's roses were not only flowers in a vase. They were the way she nurtured her family, the joy she found in her children, the sweetness she offered through her kitchen, the countless hours she gave to students in her classroom, and each petal of her life was an act of love. And so we have gathered together this morning in remembrance and to bid shalom to a loving wife and a caring mother, a beloved sister, and a special friend to so many. Harriet will be missed by all of us. And the expressions of endearment, they tell us of a very special woman who touched the hearts of so many near to her. But we've also come together today to bring comfort to those who feel this loss so deeply, to Harriet's family. And we especially extend our condolences to her dear children, to Julie, to Lori, and Michael. No matter the age of a parent or the ages of children, it's never easy. And I know the loss of your mother is deeply painful. All of you know of the tremendous impact she had on you throughout your lives, and the way she raised you and cared for you, the way she taught you and guided you, and the way she loved each of you in her own special way. You described a mother who is proud of all three of you, pride in what you've accomplished and who you are. You described a mother who showed you that you are loved by her actions and her example. And she taught you so many lessons. Family was everything to your mom. She taught you to be proud of who you are, proud to be Jewish, proud to be part of this community. She showed you by her own life what it meant to be kind, to be good to people, to see the good in every moment. She cherished her cousins and the special bonds that she shared with them. She was inspired by her family, and she made every effort to be present for those simchas, to share in the joy of others. It's deeply meaningful that family has come together now from near and far, some here in person, some watching from afar, all of your hearts encircling her and those she loved. Harriet also taught you what it meant to live with humility. She showed you honesty and kindness, not as ideas, but as habits of the heart. And she gave of herself freely. She volunteered. She helped people who were struggling. She was in every sense a good soul. And her love of feeding others, that is a legacy that is passed down. People could show up at her house, expected or unexpected, and as you've heard, the fridges would be full. No one would be left hungry, not in body and not in spirit. For she loved having people in her home, and she poured herself into making it a place of welcome. There's so much of Harriet in each of you. You carry her smart and caring way. You listen to your friends with the same patient and open ear that she did. You carry her ability to be a shoulder for others, and you carry her generosity of spirit. Friendships were deeply important to Harriet, and so they are to you. But it wasn't only her own friendships that mattered, it was yours. She gloried in seeing you surrounded by friends. She loved to watch you connect with others, and whether it was at the Boston Marathon, cheered on and supported by kindred spirits, or whether it was simply a house filled with the voices of young friends. This was important to her, and it was important to Bob as well, to know that you were connected, supported, and woven into a community of love and devotion. And Harriet also carried a quiet strength. There's a beautiful memory of her at the safety line in front of a women's clinic, helping women walk through the protesters. Imagine to picture Harriet, small in stature, yet so strong in conviction. That's to be filled with wonder at the strength that she held within. That was who she was, often in the background, always supporting others, always lifting them up. And that's who you are too. Her strength and her generosity, her kindness, they live on in you. And all the memories of experiences that you had with your mother, and all the lessons she taught you, they're incorporated into your very being, and they will live on in you. To Joanne and Adam and Leonard and Nancy, who I know are watching from afar, and whose hearts are linked to this place and time. Our siblings are our lifelong companions, our memory keepers, our anchors. They're the ones who share a history that no one else can fully grasp. They carry with us stories woven with laughter, inside jokes, and moments that live on only in the sacred spaces that exist between siblings. And I know that Harriet loved you deeply, along with her nieces and nephews. And though nothing can replace Harriet in the lives of her loved ones, the presence of so many of you here today, that is a sign of love and respect that you have for her, and I know that it brings comfort to her family. It's a loving testimony of the place in which you held her and her family in your hearts, and the meaning all of your lives had intertwined with hers. Harriet lived a beautiful life of 87 years, years born into a home along with her dear sister and brother, a home of love. Harriet had a special relationship with her dad, and she doted on her mom. Harriet was always the quiet force, subtly lending beauty and dignity to her family. She went to UWM's School of Education, but her life was forever changed and blessed in her meeting Bob of blessed memory. I hadn't heard the engagement story. I think I know why. Bob and Harriet shared so much together. I talked to Bob and Harriet, it felt like almost every day, as I and all of our neighbors remember seeing them walking hand in hand through the neighborhood. So often a simple gesture that captured the way that they moved through life, side by side in true partnership. And I will always remember their weekly attendance at Shabbat services and their loving and friendly way at the Oneg. They were kind and fun and deeply supportive. And soon after they met and fell in love and married, Bob entered the army as a dentist, and Harriet came with him, first to North Carolina and then to Germany, where she taught, and it was part of her over 50 years of teaching, almost 50 years of which were in the North Shore, where she was an extraordinary teacher, trusted and loved. Bob and Harriet supported each other's dreams and interests. They made a home together. They filled it with children, with friends, and with love. Their children recall the way they would smile at each other. There are images of the two of them in Mexico, arm in arm, in a loving embrace, dancing in the kitchen or at a birthday party. They soared through their lives together like a song of spreading wings and flight, like Bob would sing. Even in later years, those moments of devotion remained. Bob and Harriet kindling Hanukkah and Shabbat candles, hand on hand, bringing light into their home just as they had brought light into their family and their community for all those years. And the devotion that Harriet showed Bob was a testament to her love, and the devotion Bob showed Harriet was a testament to his. We talked about how quiet Harriet was, but Harriet fought for the things that really mattered to her. She made sure that they would happen. And though she was often soft-spoken, when she wanted something at her core, you knew it, and she found a way to make it real. Harriet loved her home. Home mattered to her. It was meaningful that she was able to stay in her home right up to the end of her life. It's a tribute to her family and to her children for keeping her in that space that she so loved. It was a place for people, for gathering, for bringing friends inside. Always with a meal, always with good company. always surrounded by her generous heart and gentle soul. And she shared both with the people around her. It was a sacred ark that held the values that were passed to her, that she lived by and passed to her children. Behind me in the ark is a Torah that survived the Holocaust. It's a scroll that was loved by the community that would gather and learn from its wisdom, and it is a beautiful scroll. I think I mentioned at Bob's funeral that we're not supposed to pick favorites, but it's my favorite scroll. It's small and it's light, and the font is beautifully written. When the Nazis entered into Poland at the start of the Second World War, they hid the Torah scroll away, and the community was taken to concentration and death camps throughout Europe. One man was taken to Auschwitz-Birkenau, where life expectancy was a mere week, if not days. Yet he managed to survive there for years, witnessing unspeakable horrors. And when the camp was liberated, he returned to where they had hidden the scroll. They uncovered it and brought it to Warsaw, where a small surviving remnant gathered to worship. But that remnant began to travel to brighter shores, and the community became so small that they decided to send the scroll to America. And that's when Congregation Shalom heard about it. And that's when Bob and Harriet heard about it. And together, out of love for young people and devotion to Jewish life and commitment to community, they enabled the scroll to be brought here to our congregation. And the reason the community in Warsaw sent the Torah to the United States was because the Torah is meant to be used, especially by young people, so that the spark of liberty and dignity and spirituality can be kindled and continued. And so it's fitting that Bob and Harriet made sure this scroll came here, where each week we tell the story of its history, where young people read from its wisdom, where it is carried among family and friends, and where it is lifted up and honored. One day, many, many decades from now, perhaps centuries, this scroll will become worn out. And when that day comes, we will be bound to honor it. We will carefully bury it, giving it the same respect that we would to a human being who's passed away. But the burial of a Torah does not mean that its influence is at an end. Its teachings and values continue to linger on in the life of the community, continuing to influence them each day of their lives. And what is true of a Torah scroll is also true of a person. The passing of an individual does not mean the end of that person's influence, for their teachings and their values linger on in the lives of all who knew them, continuing to guide their family, their friends, and their community. And so it is with Harriet. The stories of her life, the goodness, the laughter, the values, the smiles, they'll continue. And here her life folds back into her father's. For when her father, Meir, was laid to rest, 5 roses were placed on his casket. Roses that were said to represent the 5 books of the Torah that was shared by Rabbi Shapiro at his funeral. That image became part of Harriet's inheritance. Bob brought her roses, her children continued that tradition, and her home was filled with them. Roses became not only a favored flower, but also a symbol of her legacy, with Torah, with beauty, with strength, and with love. All of us here today will feel the void that Harriet's passing leaves in your lives, but she will never truly be gone. She will live on in the unique memories that you hold of her and the stories of her life that all of us will continue to share. Layer upon layer of beauty, strength, and love. The roses Bob gave her, the roses her children placed in her home, now become the roses we carry in our hearts. Yehi zichorna livracha. May the name and memory of Harriet Gordon abide among us as an eternal blessing, and may the source of peace and comfort to all who mourn among us. And let us say, Amen. Adonai natan, v'Adonai lakach, yehi shem Adonai mevorach. God has given, God has taken away. Blessed be the name of God. We now take a moment of silence as we remember Harriet. May the memory of Harriet Gordon endure among us as a blessing. In your own time, O God, when we too are called to enter eternity, may we leave this life secure in the faith that in your light we shall see light. In life and in death we cannot go where you are not, and where you are, hope endures. Sustained by this assurance, we invoke your name, Almighty God. Please rise now as we turn to the sacred words of El Maleh Rachamim.
El Maleh Rachamim, Shochein Bamramim, Hamsei Menucha Nechona, Tacha Kanfei HaShekhinah, B'ma'alot Kedoshim U'Tahorim, K'Zohar Harakiyah Mazhirim, Et Ishmar Chaya Bat Me'evet Tzviyah, Shechacha Le'olamah, Began Eden Tzvih Menuchata, Lachin Ba'al HaRachamim Yasireha B'Seitek Nafav Le'olamim, V'yitzru B'Zru HaYachamim Nishmata, Adonai Hu Nachalata, V'tanucha Mishkava B'Shalom, V'nomar Amen.
Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Harriet Gordon, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in the shadow of your wings, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen.